What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to go over some of the data points, talk on what it's saying and where things might be going from here. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate it. And with that said, let's get right to it. So Lucid did close flat today. There was a little bit more of a sell-off first thing, but that did get bought up very fast. After hours, it is going up 0.66%, and that is largely because of good old NVIDIA earnings. So hopefully that might give the broader market the nice green light for it to rally, and then in turn Lucid will follow, because I feel like Lucid does need to get back to its true value, which has been suppressed for quite some time. So even though a lot of the data points I'm going to be talking on do indicate a little bit more of a bearishness, I do feel that because of NVIDIA, that might actually cause it to go up. So I'm going to go over all the data points and stuff. At the time of doing this video, there is no press releases, no SEC filings, nothing like that. And based on the volume today, so there was about 25.9 million shares being traded, 27.6 is the average. These are all the transactions that did occur today on the secondary market, over $100,000, majority of which are buys, and you can tell that based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. A couple big ones, so 8.19 million and 1.44 million. These are all the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. A little bit lower for the frequency, I'm not really sure why, but still fairly popular. And of course, this kind of matches that. So normally 45.44% of the overall volume is redirected off exchange, meaning dark pool, but today there was only 40.48%. So unfortunately, I don't really have an answer for exactly why that occurred. Maybe people were redirecting a lot of the sells to off the exchange and keeping some of the buys. That's why it got bought up very fast. Who knows? But as far as options activity today, a little bit more kind of neutral slash bearish, but $42 million in puts being purchased versus 2.4 million in calls. So options are very popular. I think in general, when it comes down to Lucid, even though the technicals right now are breaking down, over the last give or take 6 months, potentially plus, it is just very range bound. So anywhere from around 550 to almost about 750, it's just been wedge bound between that range. And that is absolutely options traders' best kind of circumstances. Stocks that are very volatile, swing very fast, but at the same time are just kind of wedge bound or kind of trading within a certain range. So Lucid is literally a option trader's best case scenario. So I think this is why on a daily basis, there's a huge amount of options. And even looking right here, so this was just based on one day, but even over the last 60 days, there was a grand total of $469 million in puts being purchased versus 2.09 million in calls. So a huge amount of volume is getting into Lucid through options. And when it comes down to Lucid, especially there's certain ways that you can just easily collect some premiums by selling covered calls, by selling puts, or even buying calls as well. Those are all fairly positive stuff. Or if you are negative on Lucid, you could also buy puts. So once again, you guys do your own due diligence. I am not a financial advisor. If you are optimistic on Lucid though, looking right here, this is a grid view of all the calls, shows the strike prices, expiry dates. Based on this, it is anticipated by the end of next week to close between the 6 to 750 range. So kind of wedge bound like I mentioned when it comes down to that. But at the time of doing this video, there hasn't been any press releases, no SEC filings, nothing like that. So it just has been following the broader market and the technicals. So once again, just to go over some of the other data points, when it comes down to dark pool transactions, that is very much used by shorts. So I'll give you guys an overview of that. So shorts today did increase 1.25 million shares, 24.1% of the free float is being shorted, and that works out to be about 199.45 million shares overall being shorted. And like I've brought up over the last couple of videos, actually I think my last video was on how Lucid could potentially squeeze given the right circumstances, but 24.1% of the free float. That is just insane because there's a lot of other similar EV companies with an 8% short interest. For an example, Rivian. And of course, there's a lot of other companies that don't produce anything whatsoever, and they have a lower short interest than Lucid as well. So something just isn't right. And I have no idea, like I haven't really been able to gather why someone would target Lucid versus, for instance, Rivian. Just throwing that out there, because when it comes down to Lucid, they have the big old PIF behind them. They have Big Brother that has almost the biggest, deepest pockets out there on the whole world, but yet their pissing off one of their biggest investments. It just doesn't make sense to me, but who knows? I'm not a financial advisor. What do I know? So cost to borrow average though is 1.13%. So that's kind of low in that regard. So when it comes down to Lucid, like I've said in previous videos, I do see it could have a fairly good squeeze if there's a surprise catalyst, and there's some pretty good stuff coming out. So this came out yesterday, talks on, I guess, the price cuts and how they were well received, and also the gravity. So the gravity, they do say that there's about 30 test vehicles of it floating around, or I guess alpha prototypes, but it does bring up about the price point. So it's expected to cost around 100,000. And I feel like if it's anything higher than that, then that might be a little bit more of a negative. But I think regardless, the gravity is going to be a huge pivotal part of 2023 and a very big catalyst. Ideally, I would like to see it around 80, just my own opinion, of course, based on that. And then when it comes down to price cuts, I think initially I did think that it was more so to do with demand, but as what was mentioned in the Q2 earnings, I don't think a lot of people are giving Peter and Sherry enough credit for what they actually do deserve, because the Q2 earnings was very, very good. And I completely agree the fact that the price cuts are actually being perceived as fairly positive, both from investors and customers. Well, especially customers, of course. Why would they complain? So once again, let me know you guys' thoughts on this in the comments below. And what's your viewpoint? Do you think that the price cuts are still good, or do you think they're bad? Based on the Q2 earnings, they answered all the questions that I had around any potential demand issues. So as far as right now, I am not thinking that Lucid does have any demand issues. So they kind of solved all of that. But still, like I mentioned, as far as the overall data points, options activity is a little bit more bearish right now as well. Just the short interest and what's been happening with that is just overall bearish, because for them to increase on a fairly flat day does show that they anticipate for it to trend down a little bit further. So a lot of bearish data points in combination with just the technicals and it being suppressed significantly. But I do feel that Nvidia might be the saving grace for Lucid and the broader market, causing it to go higher. But that's just my own estimate, of course. Looking as far as this though, at the momentum indicator shows number of retail investors have been slowly getting back in. Looking at stochastic though, it is at 11, which is considered oversold, but technically there is no defined trend right now. So let me know you guys' thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. Do you think that it's going to be trending higher? Do you think it's going to retrace back down to close to the 52-week and all-time low of 50.50? So what's your viewpoint on all this? As well, give yourself a shout out in the comments below if you have been buying over the last couple of days, selling. What's your kind of take on all of that? I did buy recently, like I've mentioned, at 5.50. I'm pretty happy with that. And I've been doing weekly covered calls, and well, actually even before I did buy more at 6.50, I did and was doing constantly weekly covered calls on all of this. And definitely you can make some pretty good money if you just follow the technicals and stuff like that. So once again, let me know you guys' thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Even though Lucid is going up, down, sideways, all over the place, take advantage of this promo. It is only up until August 31st. Take advantage and open up an account with Moo. Just throw $100 at it and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, and you also get a $50 cash reward. So this is one of the best deals that you can get out on the market. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.